Hey everyone! Today on the Gilbert.K show, Emmy-winning film and TV composer Jeff Russo, the sonic architect behind Alien Earth, Fargo, Ripley, Zero Day, and Bosch Legacy. We're diving into his band-to-Hollywood journey, behind-the-scenes stories, and the craft of building unforgettable themes and tension. Let's give a big welcome to the one and only Jeff Russo.
Hey Jeff, pleasure to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So we're going to start with the first segment. It's the beginnings and warm-up. You co-founded the rock band Tonic. How did your early years in a band shape your transition into composing for film and TV?
That's an interesting question. I've had that question a few times. I'm not sure exactly how it plays in, but I know that when you're spend a lot of time writing songs and then performing them, the performance aspect of it definitely helps hone your ability to manipulate what an audience is feeling, with a performance of a piece of music, and what kind of music can get someone feeling emotional, get someone feeling excited, get someone feeling down. And I think that experience certainly helped give me some of the tools in my toolbox for working in this arena. Like, I also think, like, writing songs for me, as the person who was writing mainly the music around lyrics, like it sort of also helped give me an idea as to how to deal with dialogue, and how to stay out of the way of the dialogue and stay focused on the emotional content of a piece of music.
That's great. So around 2006, you assisted Wendy Melvin and Lisa Coleman on studio projects. How did that opportunity influence your decision to pursue scoring, and what lessons did you learn from those studio sessions?
I think it had everything to do with why
Yes.
I decided this was sort of a good direction for me to go in terms of what I was doing with my career. One of the reasons why I went and started hanging out with them at their studio was because, in a conversation with Wendy, I had said I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was sort of balancing or weighing the differences between making a solo record, starting another band, or like, what would I do with music? And she invited me to her studio to say, hey, you come check out what we do. Maybe it'll be something you're interested in. And it was in that I went down and found myself interested, and then wanting to help them, and them being okay with me being around and assisting sessions and administrative and creative and all kinds of things. And it wasn't until I was there for about 6 months that they asked me if I would like to try writing some music for them. And that moment was when I sort of really found an interest in doing that as a means to support myself, like as a different part of my career. I was always interested in the idea of writing music for narrative, media, film, TV, video games, like whatever you have. But it wasn't until I tried it at their studio that I was like, oh, it was something I could do. So
Yeah, that's great. And was there a specific moment or a project when you realized, I think you already answered this question. A specific moment or project when you realized, this is it, I want to write music for movies and shows. What was the turning point? I think you answered. Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know that there was a specific project that had that, that sort of made me want to turn that corner. It was just sort of a very, grassroots way of doing it. But my time at their studio, with the few different projects that I was sort of involved with on one level or another, that was the turning point for me.
Yeah, that's great. So can you share, is there a funny moment or challenging story from your early career days that taught you an important lesson about music or the industry?
I don't know. Like, everybody's experience, I think, is sort of leads you in the next direction. So it's everything that I experienced in my entire career has sort of led me from point A to point B to point C. And there wasn't one thing specifically that really sort of, informed that.
Got it. Okay. So you've had success writing songs in a band and also scores for screen. How does your creative process differ from when composing a standalone song versus an emotional film TV score?
I mean, they're two totally different ways of writing. A song, I sit down and write a song either with a collaborator or not, and there is no idea until there is an idea. There's no directive until we decide what that directive is. With writing, for a narrative form, I'm collaborating with someone who's not necessarily collaborating on the music, but on the overall idea, which is telling a story. And there are a lot more players in the storytelling in media than there is in the storytelling in a song. So with that, it's they're almost incomparable in terms of what you do artistically. In one, you're focused on what you think is the right thing for the song, and in the other hand, you're thinking about what you think and what someone else thinks is the right thing for a different type of storytelling device.
Yeah. Just a follow-up question. What point did you get engaged? Is it at the end? And is it like in post to come up with the songs, or at the beginning of the project? I've heard different people say different things, but in your case,
project for every project.
It depends on the project. Yeah, it depends on the project.
I mean, sometimes it's right at the beginning, and sometimes it's at the very, very, very end, and anywhere in between. It can be any time.
Yeah. And what's your preference? Do you prefer to be involved at the beginning or?
Oh yeah, I mean, sometimes it's different for every project. It depends on the type of collaboration it is. It depends on what it is, the expectation is, how much time there is, and typically, I really do enjoy what's happening at the beginning. I really enjoy getting involved early, because then the story is the story is sort of created all together, including the music. It's like the music informs the story, informs the music.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, we're gonna take a break, our first break, and we're gonna play a game, This or That. And in this game, you'll need to choose one or two options as quickly as possible. It's a rapid fire game for the audience to get to know you. Are you ready, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do it. Piano or guitar?
Piano.
Orchestra or synthesizer?
Orchestra.
Morning sessions or late night sessions?
Afternoon.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Home studio or scoring stage?
That's an interesting question. I don't have a home studio. I have my own studio. So if you're suggesting my studio or scoring stage, or because I don't have a home studio.
Like your
my
office.
Studio or scoring stage?
Yeah, your studio. Yeah.
I mean, scoring stage.
Yeah. Snowy Midwest or sunny California?
Sunny California.
Stand-up bass or electric bass?
Stand-up bass.
Solo composing or jamming with others?
Collaboration, jamming with others.
Vintage gear or cutting-edge tech?
Vintage gear.
Score, and last one is score a blockbuster action or a quiet indie drama?
Quiet indie drama.
Okay, let's move on to our next segment, projects and behind the scenes. Fargo Season 5 featured your Emmy-nominated score, including that unexpected cover of Britney Spears' Toxic. What inspired you to include Toxic, and how did you adapt its feel to fit the mood of Fargo?
Well, That's an interesting question. I was talking about it with Noah, and there's that scene that it went along with, and our main character, who is not a good person,
Yeah.
gets out of the car and starts walking, and what what's going to happen, right? You know where he's going to end up and what he's going to do. So it could very easily have been like dark score. It could have been dark, brooding, very Fargo-esque score. And I got a text from Noah, and his text was he mentioned the scene, and he just said toxic. And I responded with a question mark, because I didn't know if he meant the song or if he meant the feeling of the scene, or what.
The thing. Yeah.
And then he texted me back, Brittany. And I was like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. And then I started thinking, and I texted him back, cover. And we just started sort of texting back and forth. And at that point I knew what I had to do. I knew that I had to do a cover song. And then I actually texted him back, Lisa ? Because Lisa Hannigan has done a number of these types of things with us before. And he sent me back a thumbs up. And I thought it was a really great thing, to try to take a pop song that has a very specific feel to it, and interpret it in a different way, interpret it in this sort of world of dark drama.
Yeah.
And it ended up sort of working exactly as we thought it would, because what you get is the song, which is pretty deep, right? Yeah. Lyrically, it really did feel right for the scene. Musically, if we would have played Britney's version of it, it might not have worked in the same way, right? It might not have fit. And the way I ended up arranging it and creating the track was more in the spirit of the show, that juxtaposed against the beautiful voice that Lisa Hannigan has, I think really worked, really fit the bill.
That's great. So Ripley is described as threading old world sounds with tense notes for its noir thriller vibe. How did you blend traditional Italian Sicilian music with suspenseful themes, and what unique challenges did the black and white psychological world of Ripley present for you?
Well, when I first watched Ripley, when Steve sent me the first 8, I mean, Steve is the kind of filmmaker who does his thing and then sends everything to me. So he sent me all 8 episodes in varying degrees of finish, and said, okay, have at it. I had already started writing themes, and one of the only notes he gave me at the early stage was, we definitely need some Sicilian style music as well. I had written some very, dark and brooding type music at the very beginning, with the themes that I was working on for Tom and other characters. And at that point, I also realized that the only character that really required themes was Tom, because everything sort of revolved around Tom. So was Tom doing this, or Tom doing that, or Tom this, and this with Tom, and her with Tom, and him with Tom, and what's Tom doing, and this and that. But then there was also the place. Then there was also this idea of really wanting to have it feel like there's an Italian part of the score, but not have it feel like I'm just trying to copy Italian music. So, figuring out how to take a melodic theme that I was working on, and sort of injecting that into a more Sicilian style feel with guitar and mandolin, was an interesting test. And I think where it ended up was pretty spot on, in not feeling too Italian, but also feeling Italian enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for each character, do you have for each character like a special music or like notes you play on during the the show, or it depends on, um, you know what I mean? Like a voice for them, kind of in music, like for each character.
Well, no, I don't really like to do things that make something sound Frankenstein, like this sound for this character, this sound for this character.
Yeah, yeah,
I typically like to have something feel like all of a piece.
Okay.
And what happens is I start to write music and things start to fall into place on their own. They just
Yeah.
start to fall into place, especially with something as dynamic as Ripley was, because
Yeah.
the character really does transform from the beginning of the show to the middle of the show to the end of the show. There's really this arc. So I
Arc. Yeah,
really got
yeah.
to find, I got to find the score evolving on its own from the beginning, which was a more simple score where you didn't really know what was going on, to where into the second episode and into the third and fourth episode where it starts to get violent. Once he makes that transition from, lowly con man to murderer, and then to serial murderer, you really understand that the score followed that, and I didn't really have to do much. It sort of happened it happened naturally as I was sitting and watching and writing. It sort of really did happen naturally. So I don't know that I would say that I was picking and choosing specific sounds for specific characters, specific events. It was more like, as I was writing music, it was sort of spilling out over what was happening narratively,
Yeah, that's amazing. So you'd previously worked with Steven Zalian on The Night Of in 2016. How did that prior collaboration influence your approach when he invited you onto Ripley? Did having that history help you into a character?
Yeah, I mean, I would say having the history helped me understand how it was going to go, and it went basically the same way as it did on The Night Of, where he hired me and then handed me all 8 episodes and expected me to write the score and then call him when I was done, which was kind of how it went with Ripley. I had started writing earlier on Ripley than I had on The Night Of, because on The Night Of, that was when I first met him. And on Ripley, he knew that he was going to want me to write the score. So he got me involved early on. So I started writing things earlier than I did on The Night Of. So in that way, it was a little different. But it did still inform me. Like, I did know that he was going to at some point hand me all 8 episodes and say, okay, now I know you've written some themes, but now here's all the score. Let's really figure out what it is.
Yeah, great. So on Ripley, Steven Zalian told you we're not making a romantic thing. We're making a thriller about a psycho killer. How do you balance your own musical instinct with strong direction like that?
Well, I mean, how do I balance it? Basically, it's like I want a filmmaker to tell me what's the story? Like, what are we telling? Like, my initial instinct, based on some of the early scenes that I saw, was this beautiful backdrop of Italy in the 60s, which, is very evocative, very beautiful, very colorful, even though we are in black and white. So I started writing a little bit of romantic style music, and he called me up and he said that exact same thing. He said exactly what you said, which is, we're not making a romantic movie. We're making a movie about a serial killer, psychopath. And once that clicked for me, it really did change how I was writing music. But more importantly, it was more about where music was going and not about what the music was. That really did inform how we treated the scenes with music and what got music and what didn't get music. Because, a lot of what I do is also figuring out where music should go and how, that's very informative of what something is going to feel like. Where you start music in a scene really informs what kind of feeling you're going to get in this scene. It's not just about the kind of music, it's about where the music goes. And I feel like that informed that decision a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
Your Netflix series Zero Day, it's one of my favorite show, is a cyber thriller starring Robert De Niro. Without spoiling anything, what was your approach to scoring a tech-driven political thriller?
I mean, again, I try not to take too much of a, you know, I don't have any preconceived notions when I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
hired to do something. I have to sort of take things as they come. It wasn't like I read the script and was like, I know what this score is, because that's
yeah,
you never do. I mean, you always have an idea, and that idea then springs another idea, that springs another idea. And once you get past a certain point, what you realize is where you end up is definitely not where you began.
hmm
And it's very rare that I have an idea at the beginning of starting something, and then that's the same thing that I end up with. That's very
yeah,
rare. So, you know, I had a conversation with Eric Newman. I had conversations with Leslie Linklater about that show, and you know, it's easy to talk about music, but doesn't really describe how you're going to end up, tackling that creative issue. Um,
yeah,
so there's really no way to know where you're going to end up until you get there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Having worked on detective crime shows, Bosch, Legacy, Sci-Fi, Star Trek for All Mankind, and Fantasy Umbrella Academy, how do you adapt your style to fit each genre? So I think you already responded to all these questions. It's like it depends. Yeah. So I think we can skip that. Um, what does a typical scoring session look like for you? Do you start at the piano or with a synthesizer?
Well,
And how do you keep?
scoring
Yeah.
session is different than writing, right? Like I'll sit
Yeah.
at a piano or I'll sit at my keyboard and I'll, write music.
Yeah.
Scoring session, when it goes from what I've written to the page to the musicians, if I'm utilizing an orchestra, and I don't all the time,
Yeah.
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Um, that's a very different idea. Like when I'm sitting down to write, sometimes I just have a blank session opened up, and you know and I'm about to start one. As soon as we're done with this interview, I will start a new Q1 for a series that I'm just beginning. um
Yeah.
and, it's terrifying because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what I mean. It's terrifying and it's also exhilarating at the same time.
Yeah.
So I sit down and I try to find a melody,
Yeah.
and I sit there and bang my head against the keyboard, or have a coffee or eat some food or take a walk around, and until I have an idea. And once I have an idea, well, then I have to figure out how to expand on that idea from the point of just the melody to, well, what's the sound of the show?
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
if you
then
have,
I'll build cues. I will build a piece of music that will then
yeah.
inform other pieces of music. So it's
Right.
really just like building blocks. It's really like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
taking a, I'm sort of putting a puzzle together, but at the same time that I'm putting a puzzle together, it's also the building blocks of the entire score and how things are going to fit together and rise to the top.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So we're gonna take a final break, and then we're gonna play a game, true or false, and it's time to test some quirky facts about your life and career.
Okay.
Um, are you ready, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, good. Uh, True or false? Jeff Russo co-founded the rock band Tonic.
True.
True. True or false? Jeff Russo was a founding member of the band Low Stars.
That's true.
True or false? Jeff Russo composed the score for Star Trek Discovery.
That is true.
And true or false? Jeff Russo started his career as a film and TV composer.
That is false.
False. True or false? Jeff Russo scored the Netflix series The Umbrella Academy.
That's true.
Yes, true. And true or false? Jeff Russo worked with 7 Zillion on a project before Ripley.
That is true.
And true or false? Jeff Russo has never written music for video games.
That is false.
Okay. And true or false? Jeff Russo music style is the same for every show.
Oh, that's false.
And final one, Jeff Russo earned a Primetime Emmy in 2017 for Fargo.
That's true.
Okay, and let's move on to our final segment, reflections and future. Looking back on your journey from the 90s, 90s rock band member to an Emmy-winning composer, what's the single most important piece of advice you'd give to young musicians wanting to break into scoring?
Oh boy. There's no one way in, right? There isn't one thing that you can do or one thing that you can try in order to make something like that happen. There's so many factors that you have to understand that would lead somebody to be able to continually do this job. Being at the right place at the right time with the right music and the right personality and the right feeling and the right weather outside that day. And there's so many things that contribute to getting a job or not getting a job or having a relationship with a filmmaker. Like, I would say one of the most important things a composer can do is to foster creative relationships with collaborators, because it is those collaborators that bring forward your art, right? Like, look at all of the film and television and video game composers that you see having long-term success, and what you'll notice is they all have relationships with filmmakers and or television makers or video game designers. They have these relationships that sort of extend beyond a single a single project. And then of course there are outliers to that, but like my core work is done probably with 3 or 4 filmmakers, and certainly I work with filmmakers who are outside that circle because I do enjoy doing different things and working on lots of different projects. But creating and fostering those relationships are the most important thing. So I would say to someone early on in your career, meet the people who are making films and documentaries and shorts early on in your career. Look at Ludwig Göransson, whose roommate in college was the director of, his early movies and now his most successful movies. And that kind of look at John Williams and Steven Spielberg, like they've been making films together for 50 years, So, and I'm not saying that was the basis for his success. I'm saying that that's something that's just really important to continually make stuff. It's a collaborative effort. It's like you have a band. It's like being in a band. My relationship with Noah Hawley is like being in a band, where we are a band. We make music and tell stories and we collaborate. And he has a lot of different collaborators that he works with on that level. And I think that that's probably the most important piece of advice is to foster and create creative relationships with filmmakers and people who you collaborate with, because that's the best way to sort of move forward in that.
That's a great tip. So when you ask filmmakers, how do I hone my skills as a filmmaker, they'll tell you, take your phone, take anything, even your phone, and start making films. As a film composer, how the audience can, or the musicians can hone their skills?
I mean, you only hone skills by experience. I'm a better composer now than I was 10 years ago, I think, because you sort of learn what works and what doesn't work.
That's true.
And that's it. Experience is the only, that's why someone says, pick up your phone, make a film, because is your first film on your iPhone going to be great? I don't know, maybe, but the chances are probably not. The first score I ever wrote, was it great? I don't know. I mean, it was effective. I don't know if it was great music. Finding your talent in doing that is an important part of the journey, right? Finding what you do well
Yeah.
and trying new things and everything involved in the creative experience. So to me, I would say the same thing that a filmmaker would say, maybe it's not pick up your iPhone and start making films. Maybe it's pick up your guitar and start playing music. Maybe it's sit at the piano and just write. A dear friend of mine who's long gone gave me the best piece of advice I think I ever got in writing any kind of music, which is write, keep writing, and then ruthlessly edit yourself. Because that's the only way that you can figure out what works and what doesn't work. Continue to write something and then go back and then edit it and then figure out what works and what doesn't work and use the parts that work. I use that piece of advice, give myself that piece of advice every day. Every day I work.
I heard some of the composers that were on my show that basically some of them, they take films they already watched or they like, and they recreate the film scoring for them.
That's a terrible idea. Terrible idea because do something new, do something different. Don't try to recreate something. Don't try to do something that somebody else has already done. It's one of the reasons why I typically don't listen to film scores that much. I mean, I have my favorite film scores that I like to listen to occasionally, but I don't typically listen to film scores because I don't know, like I feel like my job is to do film scores and make television scores. So I don't really, I do for research, I guess, but not for anything. I like to, if I'm going to listen to like instrumental music, it'll likely be jazz or it'll likely be classical music. And again, I have a couple of film scores that I like to listen to, but not a lot of them.
Yeah. Great. So when you kick off a new project like you're going to be doing after this show, do you have any rituals or routines, coffee versus, we talked about coffee and stuff, and tea, to get into the right headspace for composing? How do you spark inspiration on tough days?
There's no answer to that question. There's no answer. Like, inspiration comes when it comes, and you hope you have enough time. You hope you have enough time to let that inspiration hit. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just have to sit down and write the fucking notes. And
that's true.
They're not great. Maybe they're not great.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll come back tomorrow and you'll do it again and you'll go back to what you did the day before and it'll be better.
Yeah.
But you hope for enough time to let something magical happen. And is there a way to find that? No. Do I get up and go make a coffee? Yes. Do I go for a walk? Yeah. Do I sit around on Instagram and scroll? Yes. Creative procrastination is a thing, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, there's a million ways.
Yeah. Okay, and our final question: what's next on your horizon? Are there any genres you haven't recorded yet, or dream collaborations that you hope to tackle in the future?
Dream collaborations, like that's always that I get that question a lot, and I don't know. A dream collaboration is to collaborate with someone that sparks a very strong creative response, and that could be anybody. That could be a filmmaker, another musician, another composer. Like, it could be anything. So I'm always wanting to be inspired creatively. So there isn't a specific dream collaboration. There's a lot of composers and musicians and singers and songwriters, people that are great, that I admire, that I would love to be in a room with. Nothing that really comes to mind.
Some actors, they pick something because of the story. Pick a project because of the story. Like, in your case, is there anything?
Well, with the filmmakers that I work with, I'm not really choosing the project. It's just sort of like, oh, we're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Alien was like that. Alien Earth was like that. Noah called me up and said, I'm currently adapting Alien for television. I was like, great. when can I read the script? you know,
Yeah.
so in choosing other projects, I mean, there's a lot of things, am I interested in what the story is? Am I interested, mainly it is, do I think I can do something?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have had occasion to watch something and say, I don't know what I would do. I don't think I can help you. I don't think that what I would bring would do what you need it to do, or, it would do this other thing, or I don't know that I would bring anything new or fresh or great. And
Got
I've
it.
had occasion that happens.
Yeah.
But musicians, we're all independent. So we're always wanting to say yes to things because we never know when the next job is going to come.
Got it.
I'm very fortunate, knocking on wood again, that I get asked to do projects that are pretty great, pretty cool. Like Alien
Big
Earth is
ones. Yeah.
as cool as it could be. Fargo's as cool as it could be. Star Trek as cool as it could be. Ripley was as cool as it could be. Like these projects are I'm very fortunate that I get to work on these incredible things.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So, Jeff, we're nearing the end of the show. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. Jeff Russo, everyone. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.